got in the
Okay.
car.
So we got in the car and went up to Cinnamon Hill, and we got out, and the house was in pretty bad shape. I mean, I think the roof was still uh, keeping water out and all, but the house hadn't been lived in maybe 20 years. It was an old stone great house with mahogany floors, and it was nicely designed and all, and had an old tumble down sort of a entrance gate and different things, and it was quite impressive. Had a smaller stone building off to the right that had been the kitchen. In those days, they didn't have the kitchens in the houses because of fire. In case there'd be a fire, they want to burn down the house, burn down the kitchen. And it was a very attractive, older two-story building, a kitchen on the ground floor, and it had something up above. But Johnny said, boy, this would make a wonderful studio for recording and so on and so forth. So we got looking around, and he wanted to know how much land would come with the house. And John Rollins said, well, Ted's got his golf course planned around here, so how much land do you want? And he said, well, Johnny Cash, let's walk around and sort of, I'll sort of lay it out, how much land I want. So we started walking around there, and I can remember Johnny Cash turning to me and said, Ted, I sure hope I'm not buying a big stick that's going to end up beating me to death. I still remember him saying that in a real country voice, And so I guess that's probably an old country saying, I imagine. So we walked around and figured out the land, and I said, okay, I'll get it surveyed basically the way you want it, get a title organized, and so on and so forth. And and Johnny Cash said, well, how do we go about getting this livable? I said, well, we've got crews. We'll get some crews in here and get you some prices, and we'll handle it for you. Don't worry about it. Well, okay, fine. I'll leave it up to you. So anyway, he bought the house and the land. I think he paid us $250,000 for it, which was really a bargain. But it was to our advantage to have the publicity of him having a house there, and helping get it fixed up in the middle of our golf course. So it was to our advantage.
How big do you think the house was square feet? Was it like 4,000 feet, 3,000 feet?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then how many acres about?
I think we had about 4 acres, 3 or 4
So you had
acres.
4 acres on a golf course.
Yeah, in the middle of a golf
In the
course.
middle of a golf course.
In the middle of a golf course.
On a hill overlooking the ocean.
Yeah, view of the ocean. The distinctive feature of the house was it had what you call a hurricane needle. The hurricanes basically came from a particular area, from the north, and this house, when it was built, was a stone house built in a rectangular, but facing due north was a stone protrusion sticking out like a bow of a ship, like a needle,
Really?
coming to a point. The theory being, and it sort of shielded that whole corner of the house, the theory being that when the severe winds from the hurricanes came, this would break the wind around the house.
Okay.
And it must have worked because the house had been there, I don't know, 100 plus years, and it was still in pretty good shape. So,
Okay.
and you could go inside of this needle. It was hollow, so it was a shelter. So there was, if I remember correctly, there were sort of stone like benches or something inside. So I guess the whole family would go inside. They would sit there and wait till the hurricane passed over.
Okay.
So that was a distinctive feature of the house. So we remodeled the house, and at some point, and I don't quite remember why or how Johnny Cash and Billy Graham got connected. I don't know where that came about, but we got the house finished, and they were moved in the house. They were quite happy with it, and I would go up there typically every day or two to supervise the work going on. And I remember on Saturdays, my son Randy would always go with me as a little kid to go up there on Saturdays and check on what was going on. And Johnny Cash's and June Cash's only child by that marriage, called John Carter, was always there. And June would always say to Randy, now you look after John Carter, because he always would follow us around with what we were doing. Don't let anything happen to John Carter. Okay. So he took care of John Carter. And at some point, and I can't remember exactly when, Billy Graham showed up and June Graham. And I think she'd been in a car accident or something. I think they had a Jeep or something on their property in North Carolina, and she had an accident or something. Anyway, she was convalescing, and they showed up, and I can remember. I think the first time that I saw him there, Billy Graham was sitting out on the porch, and just sort of sitting there, and I was checking on the work or something, and I naturally recognized who he was, and went up and spoke to him, and had a nice conversation, and so on and so forth. And I was glad to see him there and all. So uh, then he came down another couple of different times, and I would see him again. But one significant time, it was Christmas time, and I I think maybe his wife had passed at this time. I don't remember Ruth Graham being there at the meeting, but the decision was that we'd all get together for Christmas Eve. And uh, Mrs. Rollins, Linda, again, who was the piano, uh, a concert pianist quality. I mean, she had a big grand piano in their house in Jamaica there. She was a very good pianist. And so we get together for Christmas Eve, and Johnny and June would come, and Johnny'd bring his guitar, and she'd play the piano. We'd sing some Christmas hymns and all. And Billy was down there at the time, and he'd come and give us a little talk and so on and so forth. So I went home and told the kids, and yeah, okay, fine. So Cindy was home from Wheaton College, and Wheaton College is Billy Graham territory. I mean, there's that Billy Graham Museum and everything's at Wheaton College. I mean, he's a graduate of Wheaton, and uh, he's the big thing at Wheaton College, and that's where Cindy was going to school at the time. She was home for Christmas, so we got together Christmas Eve and had a very nice time. It was just John and Linda Rollins, Tishy and I, Randy, and Cindy. Debbie, I think, had already gone to the States, or she might even been married to Andy at the time.
So this is like 71,
Yeah, this is
something like that.
yeah 71, probably something like that, in the early 70s, and had a very nice time. And so, anyway, the interesting part of the story is that Cindy goes back to Wheaton College after Christmas vacation, and her friends are sitting in the dorm. They're talking, "What'd you do over Christmas?" and so on and so forth, and "Would you do Christmas Eve?" And they were all saying what they did, and just Cindy said, "Well, we got together with the Cashes and Billy Graham, and whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute, you got together with Billy Graham?" Yeah, we all got together on Christmas Eve, and he sang some songs, and he gave us a little message. And where was this? We didn't know he was giving it. No, no, it was just a private deal in Ted's boss's house. What? Wow. Okay, so anyway, this is pretty amazing. So next year, same thing over again. I mean, Billy Graham was down there, and the Cashes were there, and Linda had called and talked to me at the office and said, "Hey, let's do the same thing this year that we did last year. You and Tishy and the kids come up, and we'll have another Christmas Eve service." Okay, fine. So I went home, told Randy, and said, "We don't want to do that this year. We don't
Those
want
old people, we don't
yeah,
need.
we did that last year. We just want to stay home." Okay, so I told her, "Well, we're not going." Okay, fine, okay. So Cindy goes back to Wheaton, and so sitting again with her friends in the dorm, and they're talking about Christmas vacation with Christmas Eve. So one of the wise girls pops up and says, "So, well, I suppose you spent Christmas Eve with Billy Graham again in Jamaica." Well, we were invited, but we just didn't bother going. So that was the ultimate put down. Yeah.
That'll teach
So,
him.
so, so that was sort of Cindy's big story.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did
So,
okay, so okay, so when it was coming to the end of being down there, it was like 78.
right. Yeah, the government had changed to a socialistic government, and things were getting very dicey at the time, and they would not renew my work permit. They wanted Jamaicans running the big American companies. They didn't think it was necessary for Americans to be running these companies. Anyway, everything was getting pretty bad, and so I officially moved Randy and Tishy up to Florida in '78, and I was still going back and forth for a couple of years doing things for the company down there just as a going as a tourist and staying a couple of weeks and coming back out, which nobody bothered me doing that. But I remember Johnny Cash was still there in June, and Johnny uh, John Carter at the time. I sort of remember down there, and I remember they got robbed at one point. They had some bad guys come into the compound one night and rob them. And I think I was in the States when it happened. Don't think it was there, but I heard about it. And of course they were very spooked. They didn't come down there again for quite a long period of time.
Mm.
Whether Billy Graham came down there after I sort of left and all, I don't know, because things were getting pretty chaotic in Jamaica in 70 started pretty bad in 75, 76, 78, and then 78 we left. 79, 80 was very difficult period in Jamaica. The country went bankrupt naturally with socialism, and they tried to make an agreement with Russia through Cuba that Russia would start subsidizing them, and Russia turned them down. So now we got already one basket case in the Caribbean. We're financing. We don't need any more, and that sort of threw Jamaica in chaos. They had to go to the IMF to get funding to keep functioning, and so it was a very, very difficult. Crime soared, all kinds of problems. So I don't remember at what point Johnny stopped going, but I know they turned the house into a museum at some time, and it's today still being used as a museum. It's you pay to go in and look at all of his memorabilia and so on. It's a museum now, is what it is. So
And
I
this is different than, it's not Rose Hall, it's Cinnamon Hill.
Cinnamon Hill, yeah, it's called Cinnamon Hill.